Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stoked, the ultimate Star Trek online podcast. My name is Chris.
My name is Jeremy.
Hey there, J-Man.
Hi there.
I'm excited about today's show.
Yeah? Well, last week we boned it.
We did. And I know some of you guys were disappointed. Yeah. And trust us, we were also very disappointed. It was a good news segment.
You guys missed the part where, first of all, we did the recording, and then we found out it was boned.
Yeah.
And then we had to go on this fuming, ranting, raging fit. Then we sat down and re-recorded.
Yeah. So this week we've got a ton of ground to cover. Literally some ground to cover, right, J-Man? Get it? Ground combat. Get it? We got some space to cover, too. Tons of stuff.
Space to cover.
Yeah, I know. I thought I'd try. I went for it.
And an engineering report. Basically, today is going to be just a big, gigantic, mega block of news.
Well, let's talk about our crew first, because we got a little update on the new duty roster system, which is the new name for the crew system, or whatever we were going to call it.
Yeah, so that's the first thing. We now have official name for it. The duty roster. And is it just me, or does everybody out there giggle a little bit when you say duty?
Because poopy.
Yeah.
I like that. So on the duty roster, it's going to be one of the things we do now. Hopefully, we're going to see the ability to eventually promote your buffs and stuff like that.
Yep.
We don't know too much about that, but one of the things we did get information about is investing in these different characters will give your ship overall abilities. Like you can unlock maybe improvements to engines and things like that.
Having the right people in your crew complement might allow you to craft new items or unlock new abilities or even possibly entire ships.
Well, I like the idea, like if you have a chief engineer of a certain skill level, you might add +3 to your engine turn rate or something.
Sure, but that also, because he's got the right people under him, under your chief engineer, you also might suddenly be able to craft better batteries than you could otherwise.
Boy, that's going to make
have a bigger impact.
That would be a great way to augment the crafting system.
Yep.
And also add some really great gameplay to the game itself.
And they're talking about it. I mean, it's all very new.
Now, something else we've just got a little bit of information on, something new that we're still ironing out all the details, is the next featured episode series.
That's right. Series 3 now. This is confirmed going to be featuring the Romulans, which I think we actually mentioned last week.
Or at least we were guessing.
Or we might have mentioned it in the part that we didn't get to actually publish.
Probably. Yeah, and the first episode will be called The Vault.
Now, some of you might not know this. Many of you do already, though. The Vault is the name of the station where Nero, from the new Star Trek movie, actually went in the Next Generation universe to upgrade the Narada, his basic mining ship.
There is
that Borgified monster battleship.
If you've been thinking about picking up that Star Trek comic book that was a prequel to the 2009 Star Trek movie, this would be a good time to pick that up then.
Absolutely. This looks like it's going to be a tie-in all over the place.
So that means we're probably going to see some sort of Romulan Borg tech combo if you take that to the next logical conclusion.
Absolutely. It does look that way.
Well, they just spent a bunch of time working on the new Borg set for your ship, so it seems like maybe they could have used some of that same time to augment some of the other ships in the game, like maybe some Romulan ships.
We may even see similar Borg sets on Romulan ships.
Now, did you notice that unlike the last weekly series that we got, we've only gotten the name and a tease for the first episode? And Stahl said in the forum that, trust us, we've already got all of the series planned, and you would think they would have to.
Yeah, but if you recall from the Davidian series, they released all of that information up front, including a screenshot from the one that sent us back in time. And I think they kind of wanted that to be a surprise.
Yeah.
But folks like us saw the screenshot.
We're like, that looks like the 23rd century.
Absolutely. And we kept talking about it over and over. So I think this time around they're kind of saving things so that they don't give us much away. Right.
Well, that's fair. I'm looking forward to it. So that's launching January 29th. So
which will be our next episode.
And a belated birthday present to me. My birthday's on the 26th.
All right.
So it'll be like a little surprise gift for me. Well, not surprise, but it'll be a nice little gift.
We'll get back to doing our live gameplay sessions here at 11 a.m. on Saturdays with the launch of that, and then we'll include a review of that first episode.
So if you want to join us live for that to celebrate, you are more than welcome to. So basically, when the episode's released in-game, we're live over at jupiterbroadcasting.com/live playing it.
Stumbling our way through it.
Most of the time.
Asking the chat room, how do I do this?
Or at least getting our sandwiches arranged so that when we do play, our sandwiches are close enough for grabbing.
Yeah.
Because I still want that travel mode in Sector Space.
And not quite on the keyboard.
Now, you're a bit of an Accolade junkie. Did you see the little bit that came out about an old mission that I don't know, you probably haven't played in quite a while.
Yeah.
Has now gotten a new Accolade, and it's kind of a funny way you get it.
Well, the SS Azura, the Stranded in Space, which
that's like an early on it mission.
We've heard that was going to be revamped recently, and they're retiring one of the Accolades, but they've added a new one to it before the remastered episode comes out, and this includes it's kind of dumb, the Accolade, but you get it for flying through a donut.
It's not. The reason why it's not dumb I mean, it is dumb.
Yeah.
The reason why it's not dumb is because at that stage of the game, I'm sure I was doing crap like that.
Yeah.
And you're early enough in the game
Especially
where
that's your first space combat.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're like, you look around and you see, oh, a donut. Of course you're going to fly through it, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I did. Absolutely I did. So that's cool. And that's a great little new way. People are going to, ooh, an Accolade? Really?
I got something for flying through it.
It's a fun introduction to I'm sure that was their thought process.
I hadn't even thought of that. Thank you for opening my brain.
Now, the people that have been playing the game a little longer that don't get quite as excited about a donut accolade might get a little more excited about the new information we've gotten regarding player-piloted shuttles.
First of all, there's going to be new technology to allow these player-piloted shuttles.
We've had shuttles before.
But player-piloted.
But I have a little shuttle that I've...
You have a runabout.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Well, I know there's a difference, but how is the technology any different?
It's smaller?
It just seems like it would be a different character skin.
I think it's because it doesn't actually require you to go to a space station and switch your ship to the shuttle.
Oh.
That it's something you can launch from your ship and then take over as the shuttle. I don't know for certain, but we're going to be seeing that on January 27th, so before our next episode.
And of course, the first thing that comes to mind is Chris wants a Delta Flyer.
There will be a Delta Flyer skin available for your
Conveniently a
shuttles.
C-store item.
Conveniently.
But I like the Delta Flyer. It's one of my favorite little things from Voyager.
You know, I was never a big Voyager fanboy, so I never got into the hype around the Delta Flyer.
I know, man, but here's the thing. What really sold me on the Delta Flyer, and I'm probably going to get a little flame for this because I'm sure some people don't like this, but there's an episode of Voyager where they come to this planet that is just nothing but an ocean. An ocean in space held together by a force field. And of course, this force field is beginning to fail, so like the planet's leaking into space. So they retrofit the Delta Flyer to become a submarine, and they go
So a
fix the
Delta
force.
swimmer?
I don't know. Maybe they called it that. They should have if they didn't. They go fix the force field, and there's a lot of drama involved. And I was like, you know what? I like the Delta Flyer. You should watch that episode of Voyager.
I probably should, if nothing else, to get me into the Delta Flyer coming soon. You know, another thing on the C-Store that actually recently launched is the All Good Things uniform. And I know that you've actually gone out and picked this up. What do you think of it?
It's okay. Now, it looks like the All Good Things uniform, and I really, really, really liked the All Good Things finale of The Next Generation, one of my favorite Star Treks of all time.
Probably one of the greatest Star Trek television moments ever.
But I think those uniforms, they look bad.
They did.
They look like quick 90s thrown together costumes. And now that's what we have in game.
Yeah. I am not excited about this, but somehow, and I will just flat out admit to not being able to understand you guys, there's a huge community out there of people that are just cannot be possibly more excited.
Mars Base in our chat room, who's in there right now, was waiting she jumped on it the moment they were in game.
And she said within like an hour, she had all of her characters switched over and all of her
she did. She got all of her characters. And now Huggy doesn't like it in the chat room, so we're getting live poll right now, and a lot of people think it was mostly hype that got people to buy.
I think the thing that gets a lot of people excited about this is that All Good Things future part of that episode took place in approximately the same timeline that we are in now. So the theoretical canon explanation there is that this is the uniform everybody should be wearing in STO. It should be the standard of this timeline. I think that's kind of what gets people going for it.
Going back to the chat room now, they're kind of chiming in. They say Tuscan 38 in there says that all his characters have it, like Mars Base. TJ Colt doesn't like it, but a few other folks in there do have it. Huggy says it's the only uniform he hasn't bought yet is that one.
I will give it this. It looks classy.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I might use it as an alternative to most of my buffs are wearing the Wrath of Khan uniform still, and I'm getting a little tired of it. It looks great, but it's old at this point.
It's not going to be my main playing uniform, but I think I'll bust it out from time to time.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's quite worth it value-wise for that.
Yeah.
That's my only concern.
I
All
agree.
right, let's move on to something that we are definitely a little more excited about, and that would be January's engineering report.
I think everybody was excited to see this because Stahl has actually been teasing it since he came back. He mentioned it in the Ask Cryptic at the top of the month. He gave us a little lame cut down version like a week ago of the engineering reports. Now we finally got the official report.
Yeah, and one of the things on there is there's going to be a year anniversary celebration that will be a week-long event featuring the return of an old friend, and I think we both have a theory.
Old friend in quotes, so I think that it kind of, there's something special going on.
I think it implies it's not quite a friend.
Oh, you think?
I think it's Q.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that. I was thinking out of game type stuff, so either like Leonard Nimoy might return for something or Craig Zinkovich might return for something. So those were my thought processes, but Q could be fun.
That'd be cool to have Craig Zinkovich return too.
But for what?
To voice a character?
Yeah.
Right? That'd be cool.
That could be.
I don't know. I don't know who it's going to be. The only thing is, the reason why I went to Q, and I hope I don't I hope I'm wrong, because then I hope I don't spoil anything. But the only reason I went to Q is I just played that mission in Gamma Orionis again.
State of Q?
State of Q,
yeah.
Where he's in space with you, hanging out. He's chillaxing in space, and he's outside the window and things like that. And I thought, they could take that same technology. And I'm just going to throw this out there, and I don't want to set expectations too high, and I apologize if I'm doing that. But wouldn't it be awesome is if it was a week-long event, and every day Q appeared and gifted you something?
And it just randomly appeared at a certain spot in space
it doesn't have to be anything nice. It could be a battery, or I don't know. Hopefully not a battery, but...
A Q-buff?
It could be, you could be, I don't know, birthday cakes.
Woo! Who doesn't love cake, right?
We also saw that they're going to be addressing the ridiculously difficult Borg.
I like that he used those exact words, because that's an admission of guilt that I can stand behind.
Yeah. Also under investigation for maybe an impossible revamp or something. The captain's table.
Yeah, it's just listed under investigation. We haven't heard any information about what they're looking at, but obviously it's kind of a sore point with people. It was released for lifetime members initially, and now it's going to be made available for veterans, or if it might already be released. The reason I don't know for certain is because there's no point in going there. There's none. It's just this weird shiny thing outside of Earth space dock. Originally, they had intended that they would be using it to host like dev chats in game for lifetime members.
That was the idea. Is lifers could go there and hang out, and devs would be there chillaxing.
But then also people that weren't lifetime members or weren't longtime veterans started getting a little upset with the fact that the devs were showing favoritism towards those people.
Fair
so
enough.
they never did that. So now the captain's table just has no point. They're going to look into that. They're going to find a way to make it more important, actually have a purpose of some sort. I have no idea what.
I would say integrate it into Earth space dock. I think it's weird that it's floating out as its own weird little entity.
Well, I think they did that so that both the KDF and the feds could actually access the same zone.
It's not my problem.
Yeah,
I don't care what the technical reason is from a gameplay standpoint and from a canon standpoint. It's weird to have this silly flashy thing out in space that it looks like a vagina. I don't understand.
It does. It looks like a glowy. Wow.
I just thought of that. I'm just saying, it looks like a floating vagina, and I don't know why it's there. I'd rather just be in Earth space dock.
Moving on. There are a number of new features that have made their debut appearance in the engineering report. And I think that a lot of people will be excited to see these show up.
Voiceovers, maybe some cutscenes. And I think we'll probably see a lot of that debut in the new weekly series. At least I'm hoping.
Yeah. Well, they did a little bit of that with the last weekly series with some voiceovers with the whole Bonnie Ken creepy voiceover from the Halloween episode.
Yes, right.
So they obviously have the tech. If they can just keep working on it, then I'm sure we'll see more of those. But some of the big things are Starfleet Academy was actually mentioned, as well as Rurapente.
Starfleet Academy could be cool.
And territorial control and fleet starbases were finally made their appearance in the engineering report.
Rurapente could also be great.
Yeah,
that could be really cool. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. I think Starfleet Academy might be the most awesome way if it was a way to try out powers and like in Champions Online you can go in and you can get skilled up.
Yep.
If you could integrate that somehow into Starfleet Academy or something to that effect where you could be in training mode and try out different stuff, because I literally have bought almost every ship in the game that my rank can get because I just want to try them. But I end up not being able to really spend my resources wisely to do that.
How about this? You have Starfleet Academy, so you do that for ground combat and BOF training, and then if you're done with that and want to do space, you go to Utopia Planitia and try it out. That would be also an excuse.
Or Jupiter Station. I know it's not canon, but
those
I
would
just
both be excuses to actually finally implement Mars and or Jupiter for Fed characters.
True that.
With something to do.
It's almost worth playing Klingon just to go see the Utopia Planitia.
Absolutely.
So you could just move that over to the Fed side
and have it as a training ground.
That'd be cool, dude. I like that. Good thinking.
Thanks.
All right. So let's talk just really briefly about the Design the Enterprise contest. It's wrapped up.
I want to be kind of brief on this because earlier on I had a very strong opinion that it was a big ball of crap. If you looked at some of the early submissions, the ones that were getting voted up, it very much looked like they were getting voted up
because they were bad.
And people just looked at it as a joke. They were like, wow, this is the worst one ever, 5 stars. And there was a whole bunch of blatant theft of design going on.
I know.
There were people sending in designs that had been made by professional artists, like people at the Dext Files, or I think that's what it's called, something like that.
Where they were just ripoffs.
Yeah. And some of those people that had been doing mods for Bridge Commander and stuff like that for years and years and made great ships were either in areas that could not participate.
Yeah, I know. It was
Things like that. So
limited
people
to the
just
US.
took those ships and submitted them as their own work.
From the US. Yeah, they took. Yeah, I know, and that sucks.
There were so many issues.
But it
with
seems to be that towards the end, some
Sorry,
of the
Drex Files. Thank you, Titos, in the chat room.
Thank you, sir. It seems like, though, some of the cream has rise to the top.
Absolutely. If you look at the top voted stuff at the time that the contest ends, we've got a link in the show notes. So you can check those out. There are actually some pretty good ones.
Would you like to see any of them in game?
I could get by with seeing them.
I haven't reviewed them yet, so I don't know yet. I'm going to check out.
The only issue I have
with
some of them is that they're not quite iconic enough. They don't stand out from the rest of the ships enough to be the Enterprise.
You know, like
know
the
what I mean?
Enterprise A stands out as an iconic, bold ship.
Even the D, even though there's a whole bunch of galaxies flying around, the galaxy doesn't quite look like anything else in the game.
True.
So there's that certain amount of uniqueness and it just
Speaking of
stands
uniqueness,
out.
I was in game just yesterday and I saw an Excelsior fly past me with a bit of the Aegis set on there and the Borg set, and it looked mean on the Excelsior. I was really impressed with that combination.
I still think it looks best on the Intrepid, though. That Aegis set.
I'm working towards it, dude. I'm working towards my VA Intrepid.
You'll love it.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the space combat rebalancing, because this could be huge. I really have some issue with some of this stuff.
Well, now, there are a few major things that they're doing. They're upping the defense of escorts, so they're not going to be quite so squishy. But it's going to be still based on speed and maneuverability.
Okay.
So the faster they move, the less they can get hit. So good. I think that escorts need that boost. They're upping the damage output of science ships by applying a sensor analysis buff. So the longer you have an enemy targeted, the more damage you'll end up doing over time.
That.
I like that as well, because
although now it's going to make, because every now and then the game targeting system just gets wonked.
Oh yeah.
And I lose a target, or I accidentally, for whatever reason, change targets. Now it's going to sting a little more when I.
Well, the buff doesn't go away immediately.
Oh, good.
You do have a slight grace period, because I think, and probably because
hug
they
you,
acknowledge
Cryptic. I hug you. I hug you. Okay, good. I like that.
So those are the two main things.
What's the thing I don't like? Because isn't there something in there I'm not liking?
Yeah, they're changing shield resistances.
That's what it was.
They're reducing the amount of shield resistances that you can gain from abilities like emergency power to shields and reverse shield
Science
polarity.
team?
Probably science team as well. Pretty much reduction across the board. As an exchange for that, they're increasing the amount of shield resistances that you can get by having a high shield energy level.
Right, so now your shield energy levels are going to make a much more important difference than say science team or emergency power.
Right.
This is where I get rubbed a little bit of the wrong way, and I totally get some of the logic behind it. And I'm going to let you get to that in just a sec, but let me just say this. The thing is I actually have invested a lot of time and effort into making my shield energy where it's at today.
Yeah.
It's part of the investment I've made in my character, and I feel that it moves with my character from ship to ship. It's what I am now bringing to a ship when I go to it.
Well, and to take that even a step further, there are several characters in-game that have specifically spec'd their ships for a specific type of shield energy, for a specific level of shield energy, or specific abilities
or in
that
my case,
complement
actually in my case, one of the entire reasons I've gone the science line of ships and officers is for their shield abilities.
Yeah.
So this will dramatically alter the way that I play the game in a way that right now I quite enjoy. The difference is I could see it having a large impact with PvP. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think that they haven't come out and said this. This is just me kind of inferring, but it looks like some of these big changes that they've been making are kind of with the purpose of evening out PvP matches, so that you won't all of a sudden have these alpha strikes where somebody just blasts in and destroys your entire ship in 2 seconds, or where you come in with an entire fleet against a single ship and they just remain invulnerable for 10 seconds or whatever.
Right.
There's not going to be those drastic spikes in damage and resistance. It's more of an even keel.
Right, because now you sort of have a universal math for power up to shields.
Yeah, that
it
kind of seems
higher,
like the purpose.
But yeah, exactly. There's a known quantity there at all times now.
Yeah, so instead of being a bunch of up and down sharp spikes, it's going to be more gradual waves over the long term.
I understand.
Yep.
I'm sure I'll adapt and learn to enjoy it.
Now, if you have something to say about these, go over to Tribble. They should be actually probably on Tribble by the time this episode airs.
That's the way
Try
to do
them
it.
out and get your feedback heard on the Tribble forums.
That's what I'll do. I'll jump over to Tribble. It's worth for these kinds of things too to just kind of see what's coming down.
Yeah.
The pipe.
If nothing else, get used to it.
Now, before we move on, we want to talk to you guys about the community feedback. Last week, we asked you what would be your ideas to build the ultimate Star Trek Online community portal. And we've gotten some of your feedback, and we want to give you another week, so send them over to STOked@JupiterBroadcasting.com.
Now, I do want to make a clarification. There was apparently some confusion. I've gotten quite a few questions about, well, this site already exists and does this, or this site already exists and has taken a different route on it. Well, cool. I'm all for community sites out there, absolutely. The core that we're looking at with this question is if Cryptic was to focus on a community site.
Aggregate it.
Yeah. If Cryptic was to build a site portal that was built entirely for the community, what features do they need?
What you're sending us is exactly our point. You're sending us sites that not everybody knows about. And the problem is discoverability is what we're saying.
Yeah.
For example, we were just talking about abilities in game. Today, if you went to StarTrekOnline.com and wanted to read about some of the abilities we were talking about, you really would not know where to go.
Right.
And you wouldn't know exactly what site to go to. But if you could go to one community-focused site that gave you links to all the different wikis and all the different forums that cover this information, people could go to just that site and then branch out to the resources that exist in the community.
Also, realize one more thing is that most of our audience, most of you guys out there, large majority of you guys are kind of what I might call power gamers. You already know a lot about this game.
Totally.
So kind of got to think about it from the point of view of somebody that's that might not be quite as involved and wants to be.
Or like what I've been doing recently with DC Universe Online is reading up about the game to see if it's a game that would fit my gameplay style.
Yeah.
And I just have to do a little bit of reading to understand the way the game works.
That's the other side of it. Is kind of a sales pitch to get new people into the game.
Yeah. So how do we what's the best way to tie it all together so that way it's balanced and people, there's no favoritism, there's just the good stuff, the cream of the crop rises. How do we build a site that does that? And we want your suggestions. Send them over to STOked@JupiterBroadcasting.com.
And we will be sharing the best answers of that next week. Also, next week, I'm going to come right out and say this. I don't do this a lot, but I'm going to do a math segment, and I'm going to tell you what it's about ahead of time.
Oh, what is it?
This means that I can't flake out and not do it. I'm going to be doing an in-depth review of the Aegis and the Borg sets. Tell you some of the different combinations that might work, because I've heard a lot of people are using like 2 of one set, 2 of another set, mix and match, and the different benefits of each of those. So look forward to that.
I'm really looking forward to that. Right now, I have the Aegis set, and I'm really wondering, is there some advantage to the Borg set? Should I be mixing? So, okay. I guess I'm tuning in next week.
I guess I am
All right,
too.
everyone. Well, you can find that Tuesday over at JupiterBroadcasting.com. And like we mentioned earlier, you can watch us live when we do Stoked over at JupiterBroadcasting.com/live. And that's at 11 a.m. Pacific. Yeah, and then you get to tune in. You get the full show. Because we usually go sometimes we go all day long.
Yeah.
So that's how we do. We go all day. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for watching this episode of Stoked, and we'll see you next week. Now, I do have this... Whoa. 3, 2... What do I say for Stoked? Hello, everybody, and welcome.
Yeah, I think so.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh, can I do it now?
Well, no. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Stoked, the ultimate... Don't do it.
No, okay. Good thing we recorded that. Good, thanks.